Thank you for spending time with us. We are Anthony and
Dana.
Mott. We are executive leaders with Young Living in the Southfield area. So we've been privileged to come out and teach this class for you guys this morning. Just by way of hint really quickly, is this anyone's first oils class? All right, so we're going to have some fun. Dan and I, we kind of tell some of our own stories. We're going to have a little bit of information for you. We're going to pass some oils. And then towards the end, if you guys have any questions, feel free to write them down, and we'll try to answer them to the best of our ability. Usually when we get started with one of these classes, we like to tell our story of how we got started with Young Living, which starts with my wife, because I was not the initiator. So I'm going to allow her to tell her story, and then I'll chime in a little bit.
All right. So for me, my story actually goes back to childhood. So for me, growing up, I had a lot of digestive issues. I had hormonal issues. I had really bad allergies, things like that. So the biggest thing that happened when I was younger is when I started going through puberty, I had really bad periods to the point that I would be hunched over, I'd be in pain, I wouldn't go to school. And I went through puberty around like 12, 13 years old. And so, of course, my parents took me to the doctor. The doctor actually prescribed high dosages of pain medicine. Being so young, I didn't really understand how medicine worked. So I'm like, well, if I feel pain, I must need to take a pill, right? Instead of reading instructions and doing it the proper way. So I actually overdosed on those pain meds twice. At that point, my mom was like, this is ridiculous. Like, why is her menstrual cycle this bad? Like, every time she asked the doctor, it's like they were putting Band-Aids over this issue instead of figuring out what was going on. So that's actually when she started dabbling into natural remedies. So she started getting into oils and herbs and all types of other natural health. One of the neuropath doctors that she saw back then actually did use Young Living oils. We didn't know it at the time, but that was one of the things that we were using in our wellness regimen. So anytime, like if I got a stomach ache, you know, where most people be like, oh, take some Pepto-Bismol or something like that. Like I was getting peppermint leaves crunched up and we were steeping it and making a tea or something. So that's just kind of how my brain operated, and I thought that's how things work. So where most people in their medicine cabinets had medicine, I had oils. As I got older, I went into, I'm an esthetician by trade, so I do skincare, makeup, and things like that. I worked at different spas, and at the different spas that I worked at, we used oils. So I became the oil girl. Like, so when people were like, I have a client, their foot is hurting or whatnot, a massage therapist would come to me, I'd say, mix this oil, that oil, put it together, and it will help them, or whatnot. So fast forward, at the time, I didn't realize, again, that it was Young Living oils, or there was anything different in oils. So when I was using oils, I was using oils from, you know, Better Health food stores or Whole Foods or wherever I would find oils. And I would still just use my oils or whatnot. My older sister, who happens to be in the room, actually invited me to a party that she was having in her home. I reluctantly went. I actually got there late. I think they were all done with the presentation and everything that they did. And when I went there to prove that she was in some type of weird, crazy cult. These people were crazy. And that's insane that you would pay that much money for a lavender, because I can go to the store and get a lavender. And so why would I do that? That just doesn't make sense. So when I got there, though, I am a researcher. I'm also a skeptic, so if you tell me the sky is blue, I'm telling you actually it's the reflection of the sun coming off the water to this. I have all types of different stories.
Therefore, it is green.
Right, exactly. So I took all of the research material and I took everything home with me so I could look it up myself. So there were a few red flags from some of the oils that I was using. The first being that I noticed on my bottles that, like my lemon, my peppermint, it said not for internal use or for external use only. And so for me, I'm like, well, if it's peppermint and I picked it outside, I could literally just eat it, right? Like it wouldn't harm me, right? So what did they do from the time that it was from the earth that they claim 100% pure to the time it was put into the bottle? The other red flag for me was like, why are some of my oils say organic and some say non-organic, right? So I'm like, so you want to poison me sometimes, right? So what I actually did is, again, because I'm a researcher, I started looking at those different companies and I called them. I emailed them, I was like, hey, so my sister has started in this cold oil company and they claim they have their own farms, they have their own stuff. Can I go see your farms? Where are your farms? Where do you get your oils from? So a few of the people that I called, they were like, we just label and bottle it. We don't know where we get it. And a few were like, well, let me get back to you. We'll email you back. 3 years later, I'm still waiting for those responses as to where they get their oils from. So I slowly started transitioning and using some of them. She gave me a sample of Peace and Calming. At the time, I had my son, who was an infant, and he was very colicky. He was experiencing some of the same symptoms that I was experiencing too, where he was asthmatic, he had allergies, he had really, really bad eczema, and I would take him to the pediatrician, and it was like, put hydrocortisone on it, he'll be fine. And I'm like, but there has to be something wrong. So being a researcher, I started changing my diet. I started taking all the toxins out of our home. Like, I was cleaning with vinegar. My husband was like, oh my God, it stinks in here. Like, why are we doing this? Like, but I'm like, no, we got to figure out what's wrong with Dayton. Like, we got to get him well and whatnot. So she gave me a sample of this blend called Peace and Calming. So you know familiar with Peace and Calming? Oh, yeah. Peace and Calming is amazing. Okay, so that night I said, okay, I'm going to put Peace and Calming in his bath water, right? I'm going to see how this works because she claims that this is going to calm him down. Mind you, this child does not sleep through the night. A lot of times I would go in his room and I would listen to him struggling to breathe because of his asthma. And then he would cry and wake up, and then I nurse him or hold him or whatnot. So he's in the bathtub and he's splashing with the Peace and Calming. They're splashing. I look away for a minute. I don't know. I think I'm brushing my teeth or something like that. And all the splashing stops. And I'm like, oh my goodness, my baby's drowning. What happened? So I turn around and his little head is nodding. It's nodding from the Peace and Calming. So I'm like, okay, so this worked this one time. Let me try it 3, 4, 5, 6 more times to make sure that this really happens. So that was the first time my son started sleeping through the night. It got to the point where like he would have empty bottles and he would hold on to the bottle while he slept because it brought him so much peace and calm. So I, at that point, was like, there's something different about this stuff. I replaced all the oils that I was currently using. No longer was taking the different things that I needed to take to support myself. Transitioned our home, and then he came along.
So I'll just add to that story because my story is not as happy. We're all good. I came from a background. I used to work in the nursing field. I came from a very highly medicinal family. So if there was anything ever wrong with us, when you had a headache, you took Tylenol, Excedrin, Aleve, Advil, whatever. Same thing from the nursing industry. Whenever a patient would complain about certain ailments or certain conditions, we had a medication for everything. So when my wife came home talking about these oils, I'm like, that's poppycock, that doesn't work. She would put oils in the diffuser, and I'm like, this smells awful. I don't know why you keep putting these oils on my children. I was like, hard against it. But really what changed my whole perception is I am a researcher by nature as well, and I had to experience it firsthand. So she was all excited her first year within Young Living, and she's like, we got to go to Salt Lake City, Utah. There's going to be a huge convention that Young Living is hosting. We got to go. Mind you, it's like a week before the convention. So airline tickets are stupid expensive. Hotels are all booked up. And from my perception, I'm like, I'm pretty sure there's no black people in Salt Lake City, Utah. I'm not going there. She's like, no, but we have to go. We have to go. So 2 days before, we finally decided, I'm like, all right, we'll go to Salt Lake City. We book our flight. Tickets were like $600 a piece. Hotel was like stupid expensive. I think we spent like $2,500 to go to Salt Lake City, Utah for reasons that I did not know at the time. But at the convention, the nice thing about it, we were introduced to a class like this, and I took some similar classes. I met Scott Schuler. Is anyone familiar with Scott Schuler? Scott Schuler is a good buddy of mine now, and if you've ever seen him, he looks like the brawny man. Okay? So that just really did away with my whole perception that oils were just for women, because if it's good enough for the brawny man who rides a motorcycle, it's good enough for me. And ever since that convention, I would say like my whole perception has changed. I probably am the worst culprit when it comes to placing our oil order every single month because I want to get all the oils and use them. But they really have made a huge difference in our lives. So I do have to thank my wife for forcing us to go to Salt Lake City, Utah. It's not one of my favorite cities to visit. We visit every single year for their convention. But that's led us to where we are now. So we're going to just share some of that information that we've learned over the years, share some experiences and how you can benefit from using essential oils. All right. Come on now. Let's go to the next slide. Really quickly, while this is still loading. We were working a minute ago. All right. So one thing that we just like to express is that everybody is different. This was common practice coming from the medical field and from the nursing field. Anytime that someone would come in, they would have to recognize that not all medicines would make or work for a person the same way they would for somebody else. So it's very similar with oils. As we know from Young Living's oils are completely different, but not every single oil will work the same for every single person. It's like your shampoo, prescription medication, what have you. They will have different effects depending on different people. But I do have to put this disclaimer out here. We are not here to diagnose, treat, or any medical issues. These are our personal experiences, so please don't ask me to look at your feet or the growth that you have on the back of your neck or something like that. I appreciate it. So let's get into it. So let's talk a little bit about Young Living's oils. What makes Young Living different as a company, and why are their oils so great? Well, number one, they are the world leader in essential oils. They've been around for over almost 30 years now. It's been pretty close to that. 25 years. No other company has done that. Young Living, Gary, when he pioneered and started Young Living, he was the pioneer of essential oils. So you could say he was the know-it-all or the brain trust behind what we have even in the oil industry now. There's no company like Young Living. My wife does a very good job of explaining this, so I'm going to allow her to take over. What makes Young Living so different from any other company?
So that seed to seal process. If you have not gone to the seed to seal website, that's amazing because you get to see each process of that. But they start right there with the seeds. So they make sure that the seeds that they're going to plant, that they are going to be planted and they're going to be the most optimal, give you the most out of whatever that plant seed is that they're going to plant. They test their soil to make sure that the soil is going to be as efficient as it needs to be. So that's why in like the front of the catalog, you'll see where their farms and things are. We don't have, unfortunately, any in the Midwest because they go beyond just organic. To be classified as organic, you have to not have pesticides or herbicides in your soil for 15 years. Young Living's like, that ain't good enough. Not 50 years, right? So they cannot have pesticides or herbicides in over 50 years. That's why many of the farms will be out west or in other countries. There's certain seeds that are going to thrive better in their natural, original place, right? So, we're going to get frankincense in Oman. We're not going to get it over here, in the Midwest or whatnot. So they're going to test and make sure that it's going to thrive in its best environment. The next step in that seed to seal process is going to be distillation. So this is very important too because this is where a lot of people mess up in the oil industry because just because it smells like lemon, there are certain things that if you heat them up or you don't cold press them properly, they're going to lose their medicinal benefits in value, right? So that's why our citrus oils, we only cold press them. They cannot be heated. If you do, it's not going to have all the properties that it needs to work the way it does, even though it might still smell like lemon, right? There's certain things that can't be heated up past a certain temperature. There's certain things that can't be distilled in certain materials, so like aluminum or different things like that, because then again it interacts with those oils and they're not going to be as pure as they need to be. So that's why even Gary Young, there was times where he needed to distill things, but the only thing he could do is actually build his own distillery, right? Because there was nothing in the industry that was efficient enough to get the purity out of the oils. The next step in that process that's so important is testing. So while it's distilling and going through that process, they actually have biochemists on hand, on staff, that are constantly testing to make sure and ensure it's as pure as it's supposed to be. And then they go beyond that because they send it out to a third party, right? So again, in this country, the regulations on natural wellness is very low because that's not what makes them money. So for the FDA, they're like, hey, if you just have 8% of whatever you claim is in the bottle, you can fill the rest up with whatever you want. You can still label it 100%, right? So Young Living, again, is like, that's not good enough, right? So we're going to pay to send it to a third party so that you know, our members, you know, industry, this is what the standard is. So it's funny because you'll often get companies will say, well, we're just as good as Young Living, right? Because Young Living is the one that made that standard because there was no standard in the industry at the time. The next step to that seed to seal is going to be the seal. So do I have a bottle? Do you have a bottle of oil? So if you ever notice on your bottles, there is a lot number labeled on each bottle, and that is that seal process. So let's say for some reason you got your Valor, you smelled it, and you're like, this stuff smells a little funny. This isn't like my normal Valor, right? You could actually call Young Living, and you could be like, hey, where did that Valor come from? And they could trace that lot number and tell you exactly when it was distilled, where it was distilled, where it came from, and how it got to your home, right? So they are in the process every single step of the way, unlike any other company, to be honest with you.
And if I can just add to this, this is the very reason, this point right here is very important. This is the very reason you don't get your oils from Amazon. You're not going to buy it from a third party because you have no way of knowing what's been done with that oil since it's left Young Living's distilleries. So that seed to seal guarantee says that from the moment that it leaves Young Living's offices to the moment that it gets to your home, it has not been tampered with. And they have those lot numbers so that if there's any issues, they can correct them. If, let's say, a batch is bad, they'll throw out the whole batch. They might use it to refertilize the crops or whatever's planted instead of giving it to you. That's how important quality is. You have a question?
Wait, okay, so were you saying that you wouldn't buy Young Living products from like Amazon or
Young Living products
because they might be tampered with?
You're gonna get it straight from Young Living. That's the only way that seed to seal guarantee is valid. Okay. All right. So let's move on. So let's talk a little bit about the oils that you're going to use in your everyday kit. You have your single oils. You have peppermint vitality, lavender, lemon vitality, copaiba vitality, and frankincense. And then Young Living is going to give you a few blends in there as well. Diagize vitality, thieves vitality, Panaway, citrus fresh, and raven. And my all-time favorite, don't discipline your kids right now. Everything's going to be okay, but also known as stress away. It's a bonus oil that they throw in there as well. So we're going to talk a little bit about how we can use these oils and what each oil might be great for.
I did want to just add to that too. If you notice, it said everyday oils. So these really should be staples that you're using every single day. So I say when you get your kit, you open up and you pop open all of those oils and just use them. Don't worry about if you're using them right. Don't worry about where to put them. Don't worry about, except like the labels we'll go into, but like if they're white labels, that's vitality, so that's fine to ingest them or whatnot. But just use them. Use them every single day. Your life will dramatically be changed if you use these oils every single day. Every single one of them.
So let's talk about how to use them. So there's three main ways that you can use your essential oils. And each one has a different benefit to the body, but like my wife said, they're still going to benefit you in some way, shape, or form. The first way is to use it aromatically. Every Young Living Premium Starter Kit comes with a diffuser. Which diffuser you get is your choice, but it's very good for pretty much dispersing your oil into the air. You can also inhale it directly from the bottle. So I kind of have a running joke, and people talk about me. They call me the oil crackhead because I will take like my bottle of oil and put it up to my nose, or put it in my hands, and I will go and take like a deep breath. Yes, it looks very, very weird, but it is the best feeling in the world.
In fact, do you guys have oils on you? Pull out an oil.
Pull out an oil.
Yep, pull out an oil right now. If you don't have an oil, let's share oil. Let's get you all.
Okay, thank you.
While they're doing that, I'll just
One of my
continue
favorite,
to talk
white
about
angel.
this benefit.
So go ahead and open it up. We're gonna smell it.
So here's the interesting thing
Take
about
that back.
using oils aromatically while you're putting your oils on. When you use your diffuser, actually diffusing can help to oxygenate the air within the atmosphere, so within your home, within this room. And the more oxygenated an environment is, the harder it is for disease to thrive. So you want to stay above the wellness line, diffuse every single day. I think we keep like 5 diffusers in the house. Our kids have their own diffusers. And my son is like legitimately on top of it about making sure that his diffusers are on when he goes to sleep. He's like, Daddy, nobody put oils in my diffuser. So that's going to be great for staying above the wellness line. One of the other things that I really enjoy about using oils aromatically is your sense of smell is tied directly to the emotional state within your brain. So let's say you have some past traumas or you've had a really rough day and you want to change the emotional state, oils are great for triggering that part of the brain. Now I'm going to throw this out here because I'm like batting 0 for like 1,000. Every single class that we've taught, no one can actually tell me why this happens. But I'll use this example just to kind of illustrate. Women, when your significant other, maybe he's in trouble, he's in the doghouse, he normally buys you a bouquet of flowers. What is the first thing that you do? Why do you smell? It smells good? Okay. But why do you smell?
Make you feel better.
Okay. Yeah, I'll bet 0 for 1,001. No one has legitimately been able to tell me why, but someone kind of touched on it and they said they make you feel good. It's interesting. It's the first thing that women do. They say, "Oh, thank you." But that emotional state that's tied in your brain to your sense of smell makes you feel better. It's the same thing for, I know for me, when I walk in after a long day at work and my wife is cooking a meal, doesn't matter how bad that day has been, as soon as I walk in and I smell something, what's for dinner? You know? So similar effect. Great way to use aromatically. Another way that you can use your oils is to apply them topically. So the way that the oils interact with the cells in your body can actually be absorbed straight into the bloodstream through your skin. That's one of the great things about using oils is it doesn't have to necessarily pass through your digestive tract for it to be beneficial. And the reality is most Americans have like terrible digestive issues because of the quality of the food has just declined over years that it's hard to absorb. You had something with that?
Yeah, I'll just add to that too because a lot of times we'll take like supplements and things like that, but because our stomach is so acidic, a lot of the things get ate up before it can get dispersed through the bloodstream and actually do what it needs to do. So the beautiful thing about essential oils is they bypass digestion, right? If they get into your bloodstream, they're going to start going to work right away.
Yeah, usually they're found in the bloodstream within 3 to 4 seconds. That's how potent they are. So you can either apply it directly from the bottle, put it in a roller ball, just with some of the oils that are labeled as hot. Just kind of be careful. Maybe you might want to start with like a carrier oil, something which is a fatty oil, something to kind of dilute it. Usually when you're getting started, we always recommend that people dilute it and work up from there to see what your body can tolerate.
And I'll also add to that too, because maybe you have a body that might be a little more acidic. So there are people that at times they might put oils on and then they get a rash or they have a reaction to something. Well, what oils do is it's trying to cool out all of the junk, right? So I would say for those type of people, either one, stop to everything, just diffuse, maybe take it internally, see how you're reacting and go slow and work your way up, right?
Very good. And then let's talk about the last way to use them is, I know that I'm a huge supplements person. Not only do I make my own using my essential oils, but our Young Living has a ton of supplements. If you have not gotten into them, now would be the time to do them. They are amazing. But they can be ingested, the ones that are labeled for internal use. So that is that Vitality line, the white label that you'll see on some of the oils. They are labeled for internal use. Same oil, different bottle. That's the only difference between the two. The FDA came in and said you can't have something that is labeled for external and internal use. It's like saying that you can eat your lotion. So Young Living says, okay, we'll comply and we'll put a white label on the ones that are labeled for internal use. Same oil, different bottle. But you can add them to your water. I know that I love to cook with my oils. Ginger is probably one of my favorite essential oils because I cook a lot of Asian dishes. But we use them for that. You can put them in a capsule and make your own supplements as well. Just a side note, oil and water do not mix. So if you have something like peppermint or cinnamon and you touch your eye, please do not put water to try and wash it out. It will only make it worse. Maybe dilute it with like carrier oil around your eye or some milk. Anything that's fatty will help. I learned that the hard way. I can still see though. I'm okay. But speaking of peppermint, let's get into the oils and what they're used for and some of the benefits. We're going to pass some of them as well. But peppermint oil is the one that's going around now. It is known as the jack of all trades. Very, very good for supporting your GI system, your gastrointestinal system, for normal operation and for normal digestion. Promotes healthy bowel function, creates a cool, refreshing sensation on the skin. So I know probably not this time of year, but in the summertime, it's one of my favorite oils to put on when I'm doing any kind of lawn work or I'm just being out in the sun, because it's very cooling to help kind of keep you cool in the hotter months. You can inhale or diffuse when you wake up. So this is one that I'm either putting in the diffuser or I'm drinking in my water. I gave up coffee a few years ago. Peppermint oil and lemon oil in my water has been a great replacement for that for me. That kind of helped keep me awake. It's very, very good for soothing tired muscles. So if we have anyone who's active, maybe they like to stay in the gym or work out, or even if you're taking walks and you need a type of soreness or tenderness, it's very, very good for it. Or you can blend with a pre-workout drink for an energy start or wind down. So it's very good for before and after workouts as well. All right, let's pass lavender. You want to talk about lavender?
Yes, lavender, the multi-tool. So a staple in every home, supports many of the body systems, including the respiratory, nervous, glandular, cardiovascular, and the skin. I'll stop there because, so for me, during the seasonal transitions, when me and my children have some issues, I use lavender. So I actually will have them put a drop on their pinky and stick up their nose.
You wash their hands out.
But it helps to, just like it's relaxing to the body, it calms all of the sinus areas as well. So we've had a lot of success using it like that. Create a spa-like retreat by combining 1 cup of Epsom salt, 4 drops of oil, and adding to a hot bath. I also love doing this with my children. Anytime they take baths, they take Epsom salt baths. I love adding the oils to the Epsom salt. Again, like he had mentioned before, oil and water doesn't mix. So if you add it to the Epsom salt, it actually carries it through the bath water, and it's not going to just sit at the top of the water. Apply oil on the bottom of your feet before bed, or spritz your pillow with distilled water and lavender mixed in a spray bottle.
So really quickly, I'll just add to that because we didn't touch on it too much. But when you apply an oil to the bottom of your feet, the bottom of your feet have the largest pores on your body. It absorbs the oil very, very well. And the reason that I say this is because I am not a fan of the way that lavender smells. Women love it. I don't. But let's say that you have an oil that just doesn't resonate, you don't like the smell. You can feel free to apply it to your feet and you're still going to get the same benefits. Okay? So just something to put out there. Let's talk about lemon. So lemon is a highly versatile oil. It is one of my favorites. Like I said, I put it in my water all the time. It is great for your metabolism, but it has a fresh, uplifting aroma. It's high in D-limonene. Google that word.
D-limonene.
If you're a researcher, Google that. D-limonene. And that's just a little too powerful antioxidant. But lemon helps to support the immune system. It helps to support the circulatory system, your digestive system, your respiratory system. So can you see why we say use these every single day? Wonderful flavor in water and food. This is one of the ones that I use to cook as well. May enhance mental clarity and mood, focus. Lemon oil is great for that. And it is a refreshing boost to home cleaning. Does anyone ever clean with lemons, or their mom used to clean with lemons? Okay, a few of you. One of the things that's nice about the lemon oil is usually you have that acidity of using lemon juice to clean. Lemon oil actually comes from the rind of the lemon, so it's not acidic at all. But it still has the powerful cleaning agents of using the lemon oil. Plus, what did they say the equivalent of having a bottle of lemon oil is?
So
like
75 lemons.
Yeah, 75 lemons in one bottle. So it's also more cost effective. If you're a person that likes to clean with lemons, I know I've used it to clean the leather seats in my car, clean the rims on the car. Lemon, it's a multi-tool, it really is. Copaiba, did I pronounce that correctly?
Yes, you did.
Copaiba. So copaiba is the amplifier. Go ahead, I'll let you take it.
So the amplifier, I can't pronounce it right, so bear with me.
Hey, you try.
Copaiba oil is tapped directly from the tree, promotes wellness and a youthful appearance. Mix 1 drop with honey and warm water to create a tea. It amplifies the effects of other essential oils. So what we mean when we say amplify, so let's say you were using lavender to relax at nighttime. If you want that lavender to be even more powerful, add a few drops of that copaiba. Let's say you have a little discomfort because you've been working out and your muscles are a little sore, and so you put that Hanaway on, but you want even more benefits, add that copaiba to it. It's going to amplify the benefits of that Hanaway. Oh, we didn't have to talk about Hanaway yet, but
let's say you have a child that just won't go down at home, and you can try and put peace and calm on them, and still won't go out. Add some copaiba, but see if it won't come out.
Yep. So I love this part, but includes the naturally occurring constituents beta carophylline and alpha humulene. I might not be able to say copaiba, but I can say those words. But these two constituent properties are actually also found in the marijuana leaves. So if you think of some of the medicinal benefits that people are using that for, you're going to get that in the copaiba without the nasty side effects. So again, it is a very powerful one, and I do feel like this is one that kind of gets neglected in your kit, but it is so, so powerful.
I feel like she explains this one so much better than I. All right. Frankincense. Is anyone familiar with frankincense? Where do you know frankincense from? You raised your hand.
I know frankincense from the.
Yeah, well, there you go.
That's.
So, and the reason I bring that up is frankincense has been around for a very, very long time. My wife mentioned earlier when she was talking about sourcing and where Young Living gets their oils, they only get frankincense from Oman. You're not going to find it in Michigan. But frankincense is the powerhouse. I love frankincense. It is very good for helping to support your immune and your respiratory systems. So I remember one of the things that won me over about these oils was when I was making a transition, I used to get sick all the time. And when I would make some of my home remedies, I noticed that by using my frankincense oil, I was able to stay above the wellness line a lot better. But a lot of times, like when I make my own home remedies, they include frankincense oil. Very, very good for your respiratory system. Supports well-being and normal cellular health when taken internally. So you can take the Vitality one as a supplement as well. May help smooth the appearance of healthy-looking skin. So feel free, ladies, even fellas, rub that maybe as an aftershave so that you can stay looking youthful and vibrant. Use for massage after activity. Inhale directly or diffuse to elevate the mind and enhance spirituality. So the reason I like that one is, does anyone do meditation at all? Okay. And it's one of my favorite ones that I will diffuse. I know that for my wife, she says sometimes her mind is kind of all over the place and a little squirrely. So let's say that sometimes you need a little help to focus. Frankincense is going to be a great one for that.
Yeah, so this is one, like, we homeschool our kids, so when I need them to stay down in the basement at their desk, I'll just use frankincense to help them stay focused and grounded.
Yeah. So frankincense, definitely one. I think this is probably one of the higher value oils within your kit because of not only what it costs to buy it individually, but the fact that Young Living just puts it in your kit. And I feel like sometimes it gets overlooked. Frankincense is really a great one. Digest.
Your favorite.
So Digest is hands down one of my favorite oils. And it's because for me, For me, digest reminds me of bacon. Now, as many of these classes that we've taught, as many of these classes as we've taught, I've only gotten one or two people to agree with me. That
He harasses them. He harasses them.
But there's a smokiness to it. It reminds me of bacon. But here's why I love digest. So, like we talked about, most people's diet and their digestive systems are messed up, right? I know for a person like me, I am a supportive vegan of my wife, but I like to eat any and everything. But my system is like, no. Okay, stop trying. Give that up. Digest is great to support your system, your digestive system. It has oils like peppermint, fennel, and lemongrass, which is why sometimes people will say it reminds them of maybe like black licorice because of the fennel in there. It also has tarragon, ginger, juniper, anise, and patchouli. I'm going to tell you right now, do not add 2 drops of digest in your water.
Never.
It's not it. It does not taste good.
What do you mean? It tastes like bacon.
I don't want to drink bacon water. It's a stimulating beverage. But let's say that you've had something that's probably not agreeing with your system. I know I will use Digest to rub on my stomach after the fact, like if something's not agreeing with you. If you can remember and you know that like I'm not going to be kind to my system today, I'm going to have the ribs, I'm going to have the fries, the mashed potatoes, everything, go ahead and take a few drops of Digest beforehand and see if it doesn't make a difference. I know that every family probably has that one aunt that wants to cook everything, but maybe her skills are not the greatest. Bring Digest with you. Okay? You'll be thanking me later. But I love Digest. It's one I feel that everyone should be using. It probably goes underutilized as well. No bacon?
No bacon.
Nothing bacon. Oh, okay. I'll keep trying. All right, thieves. Go ahead. I'll let you explain thieves. What is thieves?
Thieves is everything. I make my kids take thieves every single day. Somehow, some way, they're going to take thieves every single day. So it list that says add 1 drop to oatmeal, granola, or other cereal, elevate your breakfast. So I do that. So if I make them oatmeal in the morning, I will add a drop of thieves to it. I do make fresh granola and stuff too. I will add these to it. I will put it on the bottom of their feet, but somehow they're getting these every single day. There's a running joke with my kids. They're like, yeah, mommy don't want no sick babies, so we got to stay healthy. So we love these. And for me, I love the smell of cinnamon, and I love clove, especially this time of year. It just seems so cozy and warm. So it also supports healthy oral hygiene. Great for household cleaning. Add 1 drop to a cup of warm water as part of a wellness regimen. I already read that one. Add 1 drop to a shot of Ninja Red for a quick, spicy boost. That is the other staple in our home. My kids are very, like, they make sure, Mommy, I didn't get my Ninja today. Like, my kids, they know their Ninja, their thieves, their little probiotics now, the Mighty Pros.
He wakes up out of his sleep.
Right. He also, and then it's funny because my daughter, she's not as much of an advocate for all of the stuff as my son. So he's 4, she will be 9 next month. And he will be like, Ayla, you didn't take your thieves. Ayla, you didn't take your probiotic. And she'll be like, oh, dang. But we make sure we take our thieves. And we have, like, it still blows my mind that over the past 3 years, we have stayed above the wellness line. Like, when everybody's getting all their yuckies and stuff, I'm like, nope, nothing. So we are on our thieves. If nothing more, take your thieves.
And really quickly, I'll just to attest to that. So, how thieves oil got its name, it actually came from the 18th century. Grave robbers would put on those blends of oils when they would deal with cadavers. So my line of thought is this: if it's good enough to deal with dead bodies, it's probably good enough for you. Okay. So that can kind of testify to the power of these, and everybody should be using it, especially this time of year. Panaway. So Panaway is a heavy hitter. This was one of the oils that my wife used to win me over when we were in Salt Lake City. We did a ton of walking, and my feet were very, very, very sore. So you'll notice that this probably smells a little bit like icy hot. Can someone agree with me on that?
Yes.
All right. So this is ideal for topical use. Please do not try to ingest this. She didn't show you the lid, but it actually has a childproof lid on it. It's a very hot oil, so just be very careful with it. But contains peppermint, wintergreen, clove, and helichrysum. This is a great one to use for massage, so use a carrier oil, V6, olive oil, or any other fatty oil to apply it. Contains methylciliate,
This one.
eugenol. I know that the reason I said this won me over is because my feet hurt really, really bad. My wife so graciously gave me a foot massage using Panaway, and it was like within a few minutes, like I could not feel that pain at all. So, ladies, if you want to win your husbands over and using oils, give them a foot massage with some Panaway. 85 to 90